refresh it.
Okay, we're live. Hey, thanks everybody for joining Blurred Book Club. Today we have a special guest. We have a friend of mine. I'm glad to say I'm brought this as a friend of mine, John Winston, and we also have another friend of mine, panelist, co-panelist, author, science fiction writer, and woman extraordinaire, Katie. Katie, please introduce yourself to the followers.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie, author of The Outsider Chronicles. It's a YA dystopia set in the world of aspirin, flesh-eating monster, girls kicks butt, takes names, and I have a little blog, and I occasionally do Facebook and Twitter. And
occasionally, right. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Katie.
Go ahead.
No, I was like, and if you haven't followed Katie, and if you're into science fiction, this is somebody you might want to put on your. Her books you might put on your to-do list. I read them. I think they're incredible. Everybody's always talking about we need more diverse books. I'm here to tell you we have more diverse books. You're not following the right people. So
yep.
I'm glad she's here, and we're looking forward to hearing more from her. But today we're going to focus on John. John, my brother, thanks for coming. What's going on with you?
Nothing much. Just glad to be here. Excited.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm doing good, bro. So tell us a little bit about yourself and this book that we're going to be discussing.
All right. Well, again, you said my name is John Winston, and this is my debut. Novel entitled "I Initiate." It was a product that came from me as a teacher, a middle school teacher in the Detroit public schools, and I just really got the writing bug about. I mean, I've been a writer all my life. I went to film school, wrote plays, and I'm a songwriter as well. So I just decided to take it serious. I got my MA in creative writing this past June. Just got back yesterday evening from Wilkes University, my last residency for my MFA in creative writing, which I'll graduate this June. So that's just a little bit about it. I don't want to go on and on because I know we have a lot to cover, but I'm into sci-fi strongly. That's what I want to deliver to my audience, which is anybody who likes fiction, science fiction.
Right, and so you're also kind of a I don't want to say a diversity evangelist, but you promote diversity in literature a lot, multiculturalism in literature. Can you tell us why you feel there's need for that and why you do it?
Well, again, I've been working with kids for a long time. I pretty much stumble upon literature as they do, and it's very difficult if you teach in the inner city to get, especially boys, to read. And one of the things I've discovered is that there's nobody that represents them in the literature. So I can try to convince them to read Harry Potter or Artemis Fowl or the Hunger Games, but if there's nobody that represents them, it's a little more difficult. So that was my starting point to to put a person of color in that spot, in that lead spot as hero, superhero.
Okay. Katie, you have a question for Mr. Winston?
Okay. Let's call it. The first question is, if there was a movie, who would you like to play your main character? Because the main character in I Initiate is Nas. But okay, actually, how do you pronounce his name? Because I pronounced it Nas, like the rapper, but I don't know if it's Nas or something else.
It's Nas.
Oh,
Nas.
okay.
Yeah. Yes. Close. Nas.
Yeah,
right.
we're here to learn, people.
When I kind of imagine it, the kid and who plays Chris and Everybody Hates Chris.
Yes.
And so I was just wondering if you had some imagining for your character.
It's funny. It's funny. Like there's a picture of Nas in back of me. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see it.
Yeah, and my first person I really wanted. I mean, it'll be a while, but I get I dream big. But my first person was who was it?
Jaden Smith.
Jaden Smith
Oh,
was my
right.
first choice. Now, you know, for me, heroes like that, like a Harry Potter, even like a Clark Kent, I like unknowns. You know, I like somebody to bring an air of a beginning. You know, you learn the character. It's not somebody that's done something before. So when you're introduced to this character, just like the first Superman movie, pretty much everybody's seeing him for the first time. And yeah, that's so it would be an unknown.
It's kind of like what they did with the latest Star Wars, Force Awakens.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. I got to ask you this, because I was talking to my wife before the chat started, and she was like, well, what is the book about? I was like, well, it's about a scientist father who does something that has yet to be discovered yet, but somehow his son is born with like superhero powers. And then I thought about it. That's me and your books have kind of I don't want to say a similar format, but I was like, and we've talked about this before, the similarities between our books. So what was your motivation between making the father somewhat of a I don't want to say somebody with a guy complex, but thinking he could change destiny or the course of humanity by first starting out with his son?
Well, I think there's always a lot of us in our books. So with me, if you're reading any of the IA books in the IA series, is the concept of, I think that God is in all of us. So Corey, the father, his thing is he believes that we can do more, all of us. But most of us don't believe that. We don't believe that we have our destiny in our hands. So, and we like to look outwardly, externally for God when I believe God is inside of us. So that my writing entails that. So if you read the book, whereas he can't convince anybody else of this, but he can convince. But if he has a son, and again, I base these on in my life, he has a son, then he has someone that he kind of play with, that he can kind of, as warped as it sounds, experiment with on his own terms.
So I was thinking how this closely, mirror my book, and also thinking about their narrative for Frankenstein.
Right.
Where narrative for Frankenstein, or even Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, talk about duality of nature, and man at his best is a mirror of man at his worst. There's always a lesson to be learned, and the lesson is don't play God.
Right, right. And there are ramifications throughout the series where Corey, Naz's father, has to come to some hard decisions, and so will Naz as to having that kind of power, or wielding that kind of power. So, and it's a choice, and I think it's a choice that on a lesser level, we all, again, if you're a reader, you can go back to that when you're given. So it's a line from Spider-Man, a common line: with great responsibility, and with great power comes with great responsibility. And I think we have that. You're put in a position of power, and a lot of times we abuse it.
And that's what I thought the kind of the how you was, and again, I'm thinking of head, because you can't help that as you're a writer, because you're thinking about, where is this writer going with this? What is this end game? You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I was kind of thinking about.
Right. There's no, and a lot of times in life, especially as we go forward, it's not always about right or wrong. So Naz, as his father, will be forced with these decisions. And if you read the book, I have people always saying, well, why'd you do that? Or why'd you do this? And would you have made these decisions? Naz is forced to make some decisions, and we all are forced to make decisions, and it's not always about right or wrong. Can get blurry, that gray area.
Well, and it shifts too. So right and wrong is, you say, get blurry, and it's also fluid.
Right.
Yeah, and it also has to deal with perception, because something right for you might be wrong for somebody else.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, we getting deep. We getting deep.
No,
My
there's this
goodness.
thing. I think what was it? What's right for the spider is chaos for the fly or something like that. I forgot. But yeah. So the flies, the spider's like, I have to eat you, and the fly's like, no, this is wrong. So
All right, so let me ask you this, Mr. Winston. What has been the best response you received from a reader, a fan, a student related to your book?
You know, when I talk to agents, publishers, a lot of times that they're quick to, well, don't compare your book to Harry Potter because that's like the pinnacle. But when I hear from somebody across, somebody in the Philippines or all the way to California, and I'm in Detroit, and they say that um, they've been looking for a book like this, and it's not out there. And like you said before, these books are out there, but they're hard to find because we don't have the channels.
Well, we don't have the platform, which is what Blur Book Club does, is give authors like yourself, like Katie, a platform to promote your words, because science fiction is diverse. I mean, whether you're Anglo, Filipino, black, white, or whatever, people love a good science fiction story, and there's no reason why the characters or protagonists can't be diverse. And
Exactly.
so I think you're doing, readers a service by expanding their view of science fiction, kind of like what Star Trek did back in the 60s and 70s, Aurora, right?
Right.
There is like actually black people in the future, which is, who would have thunk it? I mean, just my opinion. You have a question for
Right.
Mr. Winston, Katie?
yeah, it's about the world building because when I was reading it, I Initiate, I was thinking it kind of reminded me like of a dystopia. Well, but without all the blood and gore that usually is in dystopia. But because they have the enclave, and then they have the mega corporation and the market merchants, and they're kind of like battling each other. Not really, but how the market merchants are trying to keep their business alive by the from the monopolies and stuff like that. So to me, it kind of made me think of a dystopian. But did you initially go out making a dystopian, or you just wanted to highlight some facets that are in the real world?
Yeah. I wanted to do actually a alternate universe Detroit/Chicago.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of these elements, when I talk to people and they say, well, what is this? And if you read into it, I mean, the market merchants are little mom and pop stores that are closing. And
Mhm.
that's happened in my community, and it continues to happen. The mega stores are your Myers, and I don't know what they have, but they have these huge mega stores where you can
Right.
get things in bulk, and it won't cost you a lot of money. And so and I mean, you can if you go where I live, and people they'll read my settings in my two books, and they say, oh man, that's a place like that exists. And I say, yeah, come where I live. And you have streets where there are literally more vacant houses than there are occupied houses. And that's not a dystopian setting. That's a inner city setting, depending on
Hmm.
where you go.
Right.
Uh,
That.
so
And,
so
I'm sorry, Mr. Winston. Go ahead.
no, and the same thing with homeless people everywhere you go. Um, the schools, a lot of the things are my experiences. So it's more of an alternate setting in the present day, alternate setting.
Right,
Mhm.
because you have a L, which is for in Chicago, that's elevator train, and we have a couple of questions from Twitter that I want to get to. Uh, First one is Ramsey Eisler, who's been on the show. We're a big fan of Ramsey. He's from Detroit, a prolific writer himself. He's screenwriting right now. So if you're not following Ramsey, get at him. He's a good cat to follow. He wants to know, where did you teach? He went to a Haley Middle School and MOK High some time ago.
Hallie Middle School. Okay,
Haley? I don't know.
Hallie Middle School. Yeah, I know Hallie. And Martin Luther King. It's funny. Yeah, Martin Luther King's great high school here. I taught I taught at 5. If you teach in Detroit, you kind of move around. I taught at 5 different schools. Right now, I teach at Gompers Elementary Middle School. As a matter of fact, the school that I taught at before I taught at Gompers feeds Martin Luther King, and it's right down the street. So, and I've been here all my life.
And we have another question from Monica Kelly, who's a big fan. She says I Initiate was one of her favorite books. She wants to know, will Nas' sister get her own series? Nas' sister get her own series?
Good question. and as Thelonious laughs at me on that one.
Because she's actually, I liked her character. She's like, smart, spunky. I was like, she was like, pretty much up there as one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, I think I painted too good a picture of her. But the thing is that I don't write linear, so my books may not go first book, second book, third book. The prequel may come before the next one that comes out, and so Mary I have my elementary. I try to write at different levels, and my lower L and upper L, they like the character so much, so there is kind of a Mary following in some of the schools that I taught or teach programs. So I'm doing more with Mary. I'll keep it at that. I'm doing maybe too much, but I'm doing more with Mary.
Okay, all right. And we have Ronaldo Somerset that joined the chat. He read your book in 2 days, and he was like, I got to get on and ask this cat a question. So I see his avatar. Ronaldo, are you there? I see you're on mute. Okay, I guess we'll come back to him. We got another question out, and then after this we'll go to Katie. Somebody says DM Wilson 2015 says that Tone was her favorite character. What was the inspiration for him? Was one of her favorite characters. What was the inspiration for him?
Let me see. Besides the fact that birds are like my greatest fear, and I'm trying to conquer them, there's actually, when I was teaching at Marcus Garvey, one of my colleagues had a African gray parrot. And for the listeners who don't know, Tone is an African gray parrot, and he's probably one of the smartest characters. He's a really smart character, and
he seems to know a lot more than humans.
Pretty smart. He's pretty smart, and my inspiration is that I kind of have this kind of I don't know, that goes way back with birds, and I wanted to put a character in there that I could grow with, and that could have a spirit that was not human, but that could interact with the humans, and that was I wanted, and they, something about African Greys are smart, so I mean really smart. So I just wanted to put that character in to give the book a little more universe beyond the human thing.
Right, right. And so we're going to go back to Ronaldo here in a minute if he's ready. But Katie, do you have a question for Mr. Winston?
Yes. What was your favorite scene to write?
Probably the favorite scene, probably the chess sequence.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, the chess sequence, right? That was my favorite. Yeah.
So to stay on the chess sequence for a minute, you laid that out like a fight scene. There was action and counteraction. There was tension. There was apprehension. There was a audience. So what I want to know is how many times did you rewrite it before you was like, I got this right? When did you put down the paintbrush and be like, I can't do no more?
Well, I taught chess, and I ran a chess team in one of the schools that I taught at, and my son, who's a really good chess player, he would help me, and he'd read it, and when he, and I'd change this and change that, and finally he read it, and he said one word. He said, "Epic."
Okay.
I didn't change anything else. I didn't change something.
And for those of you that are listening that haven't read the book, you're doing yourself a disservice. His chess scene in there was probably one of my favorite scenes. It was my favorite scenes out of his book, and I told him this. And probably one of my favorite scenes with tensions and just with tension. and an expectation in 2014, 2015. It was so well done, so well choreographed.
Thank you, thank you.
So big kudos for that one.
Appreciate it.
No doubt, no doubt. So, Katie, you're up.
Okay, so I know you have book 1 out and book 2. Do you plan on having it as a trilogy, or do you plan on having it become a larger series?
It's 3 more parts.
Okay.
So 5 books. I'm working on the 3rd one now. It's called Union, and I'm just really, it's all of it's outlined. All 5 books are outlined, but I'm trying to develop as a better writer. I'm trying to grow in every aspect. So I'm taking my time, but I get people who read the book and they're like, the next one.
Especially the way how the first book ended.
Yeah.
Really? Well, did the first book end kind of abruptly?
No, it didn't end abruptly. Cause see, some people have a problem with cliffhangers, but I don't. But it's kind of like it ended like dun 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 dun. Read the next book now. You're like, okay, I must need to read the next book, cause it like the first book sets up the mystery behind IA, and so you're reading the book to find out more about them, and then in the end they have that card, and you're like, but that's in the past sequence. So you're like, okay, so how does that, build up to what's going to happen in the present day? And then you're hoping that the book 2 explores that more.
Oh, the card for the guy who gave. Oh, okay. Yeah, the card. Book 2.
Okay. Yeah, because you basically in book 1 you just raise a lot of questions. And so I think the reader is like, is that it? Because it is like a short read, because you want more, which is, I think, a good thing that every writer wants to hear. And so do you raise a lot of questions in book 1. Do you answer any of those questions in book 2?
I answer a lot of those questions. The problem is I put more questions out, put more questions out there. But
Right.
but again, it's a much larger story. It's a big story, and there's no, I want each book to stand on its own. It's very difficult to do that with the first book, but I think the second book answers most of the questions, but it's a bigger story. Like the first 3 Star Wars movies, they're
The prequels or the original?
The original.
Okay.
It's one story, and I mean it's all one story. But each story needs to stand on its own. So that's my goal. It was tough to do with the first book, but each book needs to stand on its own. That's how I like to write.
Okay, I can dig that. So let me ask you this. You said that the writers put a lot of themselves in their characters. You got a basketball scene, and I know I'm bleeding in the book too, and you got like a chess scene. So those are obviously 2 parts of your life. Are there other parts of your life that you put in there? And the parts that you were not, didn't have personal experience with, how did you add that? What research did you do to flesh those parts out? So I guess it's a 2-part question.
Well, to be honest, my life has been very rich. So, before I was a teacher, I was a recording artist. And so any book you pick up of mine will have a song in it, or 2 or 3 that I wrote. So Naz has a few more tricks up his sleeve. Also study martial arts, so that's part of the deal.
Dope.
Right. Big into school. So my research, when I do readings or people read my book, my research was in the schools. I would carry a mic. I would have my, the boys, middle school boys, I would have them talk, and I'd say, just go for it. Act like Mr. Winston's not here, and I just want to hear the rhythms of their language, the way they talk. So it would be, they're kind of open with me anyway, because I've been a basketball coach. I don't coach anymore, but I coach basketball, I coach chess. So my research has been ongoing with the kids that I've been with for the last 16 years now as a teacher.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So we talked about the favorite part for you to write, which was chess scene. What was the hardest part?
Ooh, oh, of this book, not
All
the
right.
last book. Oh, the hardest part of this book was to, again, it's such a big story. So there's the in the past part that I really want to come out, but I don't want to jar the readers so much that this is Naz's story, okay? Um, but his father is a big part of it, and I need to get some of that in there. So the kind of dual storyline of the in the past that I touch on. The hard part is putting in just enough, but not too much, and you never know what that right formula is. But the part is putting in the right amount that people don't say, well, we're back here, and then we're here, and then we're back here. I mean, as writers, the danger of too much backstory. So that was hard, is trying to find that proper balance, and you never know what that is until your readers. And some people, they might not, they don't want any backstory, but that's hard to do. To me, backstory is spice, is flavor. I want to know.
I agree. I think it adds depth to your character. I see I got Mr. Somerset back, Ronaldo back. Mr. Somerset, do you have a question for the author? Okay, we'll come back to him. Katie.
Okay. I noticed it's mostly like in the description for Nez. Does he have locks or starter locks? Because he's always twisting his hair a lot. So I was like, locks?
Say it one more time. Does he have locks?
Yeah, or starter locks, So in the book, he's like twisting his hair a lot. So I was like, does he have locks?
Again, my experience with my kids, I mean, even before, 'cause I wrote this book, 3 or 4 years ago now, kind of what I did we kind of like, I don't know, as a youngster, I hated getting my hair cut. Oh, I hated getting my hair cut, and I was always playing in my hair. So, and as a teacher now, that's kind of a style. And we'll see where Naz goes with it, but he doesn't like his haircut, nor did his father like his haircut. So,
okay, so we have another question from our Twitter audience. This is from Caitlin Bayron. I'm sorry, it looked like it's Caitlin Bayron, and I apologize if I murdered your name. I'm terrible at this. But she wants to know, how has music influenced your writing?
it's funny. I did a reading at my cohort in Wilkes in June, and right away, one of the gentlemen raised his head and he said, "You're a musician." And I said, "Yeah." And he said he could tell by the rhythms. And I think, and as writers, as we begin to learn that writing is just not words; they have rhythms. And your readers they may not know that, but sometimes a reader can just decide, I don't like this book, and they may close the book, or they may not. But there are certain things that keep a reader involved, besides the plot, besides attention, besides character development. And with me, when I read it back, I read everything I do back aloud over and over again. Besides the fact that there are lyrics in my book, there are songs, Mary sings. And there are things that Naz can do that he's not that we haven't been revealed yet, and that hasn't been revealed yet in this book. So it has influenced me, because lyrics, it's all writing to me. It's all creating something from nothing. My first it was storytelling to me, which became songwriting, which became instrument playing, and it's come back full circle to my favorite, storytelling, which is where it starts.
Okay. And you mentioned a lot about rhythms for your writing. I talked to another writer not too long ago, Daniel Jose Older, who's writes some of the best dialogue I think I've read, and it reminds me a lot of yours. And he's also has a strong musical background, and so there's a rhythm and there's a cadence to it that And when you talk about the beauty of language, you got to think about people like Toni Morrison, and and that is so accurate. I think that is so true that there's other things to do to keep your writer engaged outside of moving the narrative along. And it's the beauty of language, whether it's the rhythms or cadence of the dialogue or whatever. That's one of those tools at your disposal, and I think you do that best, if not better than a lot of writers, especially new writers, because I mean you've only written 2 books that I know about, and so you seem to be further along in the process than most, and I think that's because of your musical background.
Thank you. It definitely helps. It's a part of it.
Right. Katie, you're up. What you got for him?
Okay. Well, since AI is self-published, right? And a lot of authors when you're self-published, get asked the question, are you going to do like traditional publish for your next book? What are your plans for it? Or you just, prefer the control that self-publishing gives you? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. Actually, I had done pretty well, I guess, for a self. To me, it's never enough, but for a self-published author with I Initiate, I did pretty well, and it's been doing better and better. That I had a medium to small to medium press, traditional press offer to take over the book and do the second book, and we were in talks, and I just shut it down because I realized the freedom, and I think Thelonious said this before. The freedom that the ideas that I wanted to bring to do with this book, they would never do. And I have friends who are traditionally published who are asking me, "What did you do? How did you do this?" And so you can find yourself in a quandary with traditional publishing because you think you've reached the promised land, and they won't do anything with your book, and it'll sit there. And so now I think authors I can't speak for you guys, but you have to learn this business, and you have to develop a following, and you have to get around people, and you have to talk, and you have to engage your readership. And a lot of times, traditionally published, I had a record deal, and how I got my record deal was being an indie recording artist first, and then a major record company came along. So by that time, it was you learn that they're not going to do it for you. And if you think they are, you're going to lose that traditional publishing deal, or you're going to lose that record deal. So until I enjoy doing my book covers, I enjoy getting setting up my own readings and meeting other authors and interact and doing that. And so at some point, yeah, maybe as I go along, I'll do that with I have other things that I'm working on, but the self-publishing is, I don't call it self-publishing. It's just there are different levels, indie, self, hybrid, but to me, they're all kind of moving together. And the bottom line is authors need to develop their platform, whether they're traditionally published or self-published or anything in between.
So to summarize, it was more important for you to have control of the product that you created to go the indie route, although there's more work involved with going the indie route than it is to having a small to mid-level publishing house produce it for you, just because you lose control of the baby that you create. I mean, I'm trying to encapsulate what you just said. Is that a fair?
Yes, it's definitely. I mean, I had one person say, "You read the book, and you know who I'm trying to make Corey, right?"
Right.
Corey's he's a scientist. He's won Nobel Prizes, right? He's a scientist. And I had a publisher, more than one publisher, say he's too big. He's not a realistic character. And I said, why? Tony Stark's a realistic character. Why can't Cornelius Anderson be a realistic character?
Tony Stark's graduated from MIT at like 16 or something like that.
Right, and that's a real. But nobody has a problem with that, right?
Right.
So why would anybody have a problem with Cornelius Anderson, being the youngest person to ever win the Nobel Prize in a fictional world?
Right.
So those kind of things I just weren't willing to change or talk about, and and you know, those are my babies. Now, again, I'm very open. My novel has changed incredibly since its first inception, but certain things like again, it's all subjective at the end of the day. So you have to, at some point, you have to believe in what you're doing, and you have to be willing to want to work hard to get it out there. I mean, I am totally committed to what I'm doing with the IA series and myself as a writer in general, in the larger picture.
So I think that's a lesson for all young writers coming up. I know a lot of us, and myself included, I wouldn't mind being published one day, but it has to be on my own terms, right? I think some of the biggest feedback I got from my characters is that they're middle class. And I was like, wow, you know, never mind that they're super strong, super fast, and super smart. You're going to argue with. So you can believe they can lift a car, but you can't believe that, you know, they live in the suburbs. And I'm like, you know, okay, later for that. So
Right.
a lot of what you said rings true, and you know, thank you for putting a voice to it. So Katie, you're up.
Okay, what are some of your like writer influences or like favorite writers?
Okay, favorite writers, obviously, and it's kind of cliche, but it's true. J.K. Rowling is a model for what I do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I like Octavia Butler. I like Suzanne Collins. I like John. Probably my biggest, probably my I would that I haven't met, but I would consider him my mentor is John Edgar Wideman. And who else?
So what is John Edgar Wideman write? I'm not familiar with him.
He writes. It's kind of literary. Send My Love. He has a couple of. It's very literary, and but he writes about basketball. He writes about basketball. He was the first Rhodes Scholar. There's only been that's African American. And what are some of his works? I mean, it's very esoteric stuff. He does a lot of times. He won't use quotation marks, you know. But he writes. He's had the African American experience. He's had, and you know, his son and his brother went to prison for life. You know, so he writes about those in his
son and his brother.
Yes,
You're gonna have to DM me his information after this. I'm definitely need to put him on my to read list.
Yeah, he's a like I said, he's a Rhodes Scholar. He's played Division I basketball. He's a great guy and I kind of pattern myself after him. Not that I mean John Edgar Wideman, John Darrell Winston. That's kind of a coincidence, but but yeah, I read, you know, just about all of his work at this point. So I try to keep that kind of literature in my mind, you know, continually. I kind of keep that going along with the Harry Potters, which is, you know, it's kind of like I said, it's not an easy. His work is not an easy read, but I try to expand my knowledge as a writer and my skills as well.
So you have an eclectic taste in writing. You have a musical background. Why did you choose science fiction as a genre to try your talents in?
Probably two reasons. One, it's a natural fit for me, more so than fantasy. I really, although, you know, again, I'll say this, I'm a Harry Potter from a standpoint of writing fan, but not so much from the unbelievable world.
So tell me the difference between, from your perspective, the difference between fantasy and science fiction.
Okay, for me.
And this is something me and Katie's talked about in previous podcasts. And so it varies from writer to writer, but I want to get your perspective.
It does. Well, you won't find creatures in my book that never existed or never will exist. I like to consider my writing subtle science fiction and literary YA, and in that I believe it, and I believe it's possible, you know, and so, but, you know, whereas, you know, I don't believe in unicorns. I don't believe in things like that. So I don't ride unicorns. I mean, you know, and it's hard for me to really, you know, I'm not being critical. I'm just saying, you know, like.
No, well, so I think I wrote, when I reviewed your book, I wrote, you know, why I thought it was great science fiction. You know, because in my perspective, the difference between fantasy and science fiction is fantasy, all you need is faith, right? You don't need a scientific explanation of why unicorns exist. You know, for science fiction, there has to be a unicorn, you know, there was a genetic mutation from like a horse or a deer or something. You need something. Right. Something tangible, no matter how tenuous, to tie it, you know, into. And so that's why I would classify, you know, your book as science fiction, because it's based in real science, no matter how tenuous. And for like Harry Potter, all you need is faith. Nobody knows you can't ride a broom. That's ridiculous.
Right. But there was one other thing. I was really moved by the Superman myth, and not at first. I was not a fan of the Man of Steel long ago until I went to see the first movie,
the first one with
Christopher Reeve.
Christopher. Okay. All right. A while back, I got you.
Yes, and the reason is because I needed to know why this guy could fly. I needed to know why he was stronger than everybody else. And when it went too far in the unbelievable, that's when it may lose me. But when you tell me, okay, he's from another planet, and you know, he's not one of us. So then it takes on a level of, okay, he's an alien, which also which is why, again, I can watch a Star Wars and I can relate, and I can say, oh man, you know, it has nothing to do with humans. You know, it's a different. But when we're talking about humans, then it needs to be grounded in something, just like you said. Why is this?
Right. So my thing is, I usually read more fantasy than I do science fiction, but I write science fiction. I'm a big fan of J.K. Rowling, and like I said, she doesn't need to explain to me how a broom can fly. You know, and she writes so well, I'm gonna take her word for it.
Right.
But for science fiction, I need to know.
I know. Can I do one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so get your guitar. So I put music. So I have a soundtrack because I did, and you know, and my daughter and son, they wrote a song, and she wants to play and sing the chorus.
Oh, well, let's do this. This is a Blurred Book Club first.
Yeah. So yeah, and we're gonna record. Actually, she's a musician and she's a singer. She's 13.
And I met her.
Oh yeah, you did. And
when I was in Detroit, right? She interviewed me.
And she's starting that. She just had to get acclimated to her first year in high school, but she's starting that YouTube channel. And so we're gonna do what I already talked to KD about that, right?
Yeah.
She's gonna review books, review movies, and she writes songs, and she's an incredible musician.
So I have to make sure I give her the latest edition of my book.
Yeah. And we're gonna have. One of the things I want to do is we're gonna record this summer and put our stuff. She's doing soundtrack for my books. We're gonna put them on iTunes. We're gonna put them on iTunes, and try to have different pieces. You gonna come over here?
You was actually trying to blow up. This is exciting. I mean, whenever I hear people moving the bar and excelling in other arenas, it motivates me. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys are about to put down.
Go.
Wait, we gotta see you at least.
There go the ball player. There go the basketball player, y'all. If you don't know.
She's just gonna do a taste, the chorus. You want to do the rap part? You want to do any of it?
No, I'll do the chorus.
All right, do the chorus. You got enough room?
Yep. Ready? I wanna walk in the sun again. I wanna see my old friend before he went away. Those days are gone. Wish we never let you down when you needed to look down. Then I wouldn't feel this way. Those days are gone.
All right, let's just a taste.
Is that all we get?
I'm hungry for more.
Yeah, when the CD drop.
We're gonna do more. We're gonna record. I'm gonna do audio. We're gonna do audiobooks this summer, and it's going to have a soundtrack to it too. So trying to do, we have to.
You are definitely expanding your brand.
Thank you. We got to think outside the box as indie as publishers now, right?
And this is something I want you to talk to other authors about. Your social media game is strong, and I think a lot of self-published authors. There's two skill sets involved in self-publishing. There's a writing aspect, right, where you actually have to have the tenacity to start from scratch and write a book and get it out there. And then there's a marketing aspect, where if you're not traditionally published, you need to be you need to be everything. And so I think a lot of young authors, I think a lot of independent authors, self-published authors, I think they lose sight of that marketing standpoint. And like I said before, your social media game is strong. And for self-published authors, social media is probably the best avenue you're going to do to get your book out. So can you explain a little bit about that, why you leverage social media so much, how you leverage it, and how it's benefited you in getting the word out about your books?
Right. I mean, I have, I found a lot of authors who are my friends now. I mean, and getting closer to authors. And sometimes authors ask me, well, what do you, what do I need to do more of? And one of the first things is that old thing of being friends. I have just like when you came to town, Thelonious, you came to town and we went to Fridays, and I think I had some problems the last time you came to town, but you have to be for to have friends, you have to show yourself friendly, right? And
right.
I tell people, first, Goodreads, that's a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. I agree with that.
That's a no-brainer. Yes, a social media site that has as its focus readers, So Goodreads, there's so many of them. I think, and I kind of use Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook kind of equally. But but Goodreads is my baby. So, but the bottom line is reading, reviewing. I don't, I've evolved. I try to read and I try to be a good reviewer, and read books of authors that I know and authors that I don't know, and be critical. You can have a lot of followers, but they're not quality followers. So watch out for that.
Right, junk followers.
Yeah. Interact with your followers. If somebody says something you like, say something back. But you need to engage social media daily, I would think. Daily. Getting friends, communicating with your friends, talking about your book, talking about, your experience as an author, whatever. Not just as an author, but as a person.
And I would say this, what you say about friends is so important, because the next time your first interaction shouldn't be with somebody to tweet my book.
Right.
Yeah.
I got people I've never heard before direct tweeting, tagging me and stuff, retweet this book, and I'm like, dude, I don't even know you.
About that.
I'm like, dude, I don't even, hello? So
right.
establishing relationships, and once you establish relationships, it's okay to do a favor, like, John got something coming out, I'm going to do my best to promote it because I know he would do the same for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Katie. But the first time I interface with somebody, it better not be retweet this for me if I don't know you.
Right. That's not the goal.
Yeah, I mean, so, up your social media game, but, there's principalities involved, right?
Definitely. And you can get really creative because people try to come up with these rules for social media, but you have to think outside the box because it's changing every day. You could come up with something that nobody's ever thought of utilizing social media that could break your, you could be a breakout author by doing something special on social media. I mean, we let's do a book tour. Oh yeah, you have to do a giveaway. But if it's set up, everybody does a giveaway. How effective is a giveaway? Right? So you have to think outside the box, and you have to keep going. You have to do it every day.
And you have to write a good book. So I've seen people.
Yeah.
I've seen. So I mean, that should be go without saying. But I've seen people who want me to retweet their books, and I'll go and look at Amazon. It got like 1 1-star rating, and it was like, don't buy this book. And I'm like, yeah, you before you need anybody to retweet this, you actually probably want to take this down, rewrite it, or at least have some positive reviews on Amazon and Goodreads, so that when people go research, they're like, okay, this is a book I might think about getting, right?
I'm surprised. I'm surprised at how many, and this is a self-published thing, or young new authors, they're not interested in rewriting, revising, editing, getting a second, third, fourth, fifth pair of eyes, and that's extremely important in this competitive market with authors. I mean, you're right. The first goal, like Henry Ford said, is make the best possible product. And I mean, it took me 11 months to write IA in the first book, and then I spent another year just editing, revising, letting people read it, and it totally changed. And I think the second book, it's just my opinion, but I've grown as a writer, and I intend to continue to grow because it's competitive.
You talked about that, how I had to go back and rewrite some of my stuff because you get better, right?
Yeah,
and
you get better.
Like you say, there's no rules to this game because there's no reason why you can't take a book down that you wrote 2 years ago and rewrite it. There's no reason you can't, and then do another promotional push. There's no reason you can't do that. You define your own rules, but all I'm gonna say is, I didn't want to hear from someone the first time asking me to retweet their book. That's that's well, my daughters. This is word going around. That's ratchet. That's what my daughters use. I'm gonna go ahead and use that phrase right now. That's ratchet. All right, so we got a question from Antonio Drew Van. And I hope I got this name right.
Antonia.
Antonia. Okay, thank you, my brother. The IA series appeals to adults as well as youth. Was this intended, or were you writing for youth?
When I started, again, my target audience, it was my kids. But then again, I picked up, I wasn't a big reader, but I picked up I picked up the Harry Potter book. Everybody, there's a lot of people who don't particularly like Harry Potter, but people read it.
Really?
8 to 80. Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But people read it 8 to 80. So to me, I don't know if it was C.S. Lewis who said, children's literature that's not good or a child's book that isn't. It should be good for everybody, like Toy Story.
Right.
So I tried to write a book that performed at every level, right? I want everybody to read my book because I can read. I read Harry Potter and I said, wow, this is great literature. This is really good literature.
I thought the same when I read Harry Potter. I mean, I was just amazed by her writing. I'm a big fan of J.K. Rowling.
Right.
Because of Harry Potter books, I'm probably gonna read whatever she writes. But go ahead, John.
Yeah, but so when I wrote, my first thing was as a teacher, I'm writing for my kids. But again, like you said with Sins of the Father, I wasn't gonna write down. Somebody read my first draft and they said, "Now, who did you say you were writing for? You're writing for inner city kids? Are they gonna be able to read this stuff?" I'm not gonna write down. There are dictionaries. When I get done, when I get done writing, I want kids in the 6th, 7th, 8th grade to have learned 10 or 20 new words. That's okay. I mean, there were words, it being J.K. Rowling, I didn't know what some words were. I'll admit. And then you go get a dictionary and you learn.
And she made up a lot of words because her world building was incredible, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So and that was a big criticism of mine because it was like, kids don't talk like this. I was like, Anna's a super genius. I mean, she hacked into Wall Street. I'm like, how come she can't use a 7-syllable word, right?
Right.
So if you're gonna make this character super smart, or like in Nas's case, just make him a polymorph that has skills and everything, it's not out of the ordinary for them to talk different or be considered different.
Right. Yeah. So, like who's smarter than Hermione, right? So
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and again, that goes back to you controlling your product, controlling the story, controlling the narrative, controlling the distribution. Because if you sign on with a publishing company that doesn't share your vision, then all that is gone. And once you sign that paper, it's too late, man.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
So kudos. Katie, what you got next?
I just thought, do you have any ideas for future products beyond the series?
Yes, I do actually. There's, I do want to do a memoir one day, but I want to write about 7 or 8 books before that point. But the one project I have, I don't know, but I do have a project. It's kind of a spin on the It's a spin on the Superman series, and it's a female protagonist, and it's called Ultima Humana,
Mm-hmm.
and
Tweet that out. Can you
I like
tweet
the
that out?
title.
Yeah. Because I'm gonna forget it. So tweet that out.
and yeah, it's a sci-fi. It's on a different, and it will require a lot of world building because it's not on set on this planet. Um,
Okay.
and Ultima, and it's well, I'll leave it there. But it's something I'm doing a workshop. I'm giving a workshop at the Las Vegas Writers Convention in April on world building.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll be using that kind of as like a part of the platform and something to work with the people who come to the workshop.
Is it going to be middle grade like IA, or is it going to be like YA or adult?
It's gonna be YA.
Woo!
The next union, IA union will be straight YA. It won't be middle grade.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So what's the difference?
Well, KT, you want to answer that? No, it's for
Okay.
me. I think. Well, for me, like I think it varies, but where I'm writing, it's I think it was like 11 to 13 was middle grade, and then like 14 to 17 or 18 was YA. Then you went into
Mm-hmm.
new adult. So, but I think it kind of crosses over here and there. And
So
NAS will be. Go ahead.
all of a sudden, that's like too many categories for me, man.
Really, right, brother.
I mean, I'm just like, so so like Nas, IA Initiative. I mean, that's just a good book, and like you said with Harry Potter, Harry Potter. I don't know if how many people have read The Wizard of Earthsea, C.S. Lewis. All
Mm-hmm.
those books were written before all these categories.
Right,
And
right,
I
right.
know you have to categorize book because it helps with marketing or whatever. And so doing a hashtag YA lets people know that are looking
Actually,
for young adult.
with
Huh?
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry. You go.
No, well,
Actually,
I'm
with
just so what I was gonna say, like C.S. Lewis, like J.R. Tolkien, like Ursula M. Guin with like The Wizard of Earthsea. A lot of these books are considered YA today, but I don't know if there was a YA, category back then when they came out. They were maybe marketed as for a younger generation, and so all these micro tags and micro targets or whatever, it drives me crazy. And I know when you're an independent author, you have to do it because it helps people find your book with like hashtags or whatever. But I'm just like, man, this is crazy. That was my 30-second spiel. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Katie.
Okay, well, with Harry Potter actually was the book that really propelled YA as a genre, because before they were categorizing as middle grade, but a lot of the themes and actually, okay, I'm gonna miss something. I've only read the first book and I haven't read the series and I haven't watched the movies, so I don't know how it progressed really as a series. But people were saying that because of the themes that it was covering, a lot of them felt that it wasn't really middle grade, 11, 13-year-olds, even though a lot of younger people were reading it. But anyway, they promoted the YA genre because before that they would be like Babysitting Club, Sweet Valley High, what's it called? Are You There, God? Is Me, Margaret? I forget the author's name. And then the first YA book that people would really consider YA would be The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton.
Right.
And so before that it would be just you were a kid and then you reached 10-year-old and it was like read these adult books. And so there wasn't really anything to talk about the experience of young adult, teenager, coming of age and stuff that they were going through. So that's really what propelled the genre. And then with NA and new adult, that's a really really new genre. I think it's only been like since 2012, and that's mostly because like as people who primarily read YA age out, and they're like they still want YA feel, but with more complex subject matter, and that's where like new adult comes in, but it's mostly centered around college and stuff like that. Though there are some new adults that aren't in college and stuff like that.
So I will say this. Yeah, I have no idea where my book falls. I don't know.
Okay, I feel it's middle grade.
I mean, and so, but
Because the
thing
character's
is,
age.
yeah, the thing is, I would want everybody to like John says, kids should be able to read it, and adults should be able to read it. Now, like, don't use profanity, and that's something John doesn't do. And there's like no adult type themes centered on like sex or alcohol or whatever. But that was a conscious choice because I wanted my daughters to be able to read it without their parents looking over their head or whatever. But all these micro categories, young adult, I mean, who has the time for all that, man?
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to spill, but I mean, I know it's necessary evil. I'll just say that I know it's necessary evil, especially for independent authors, because there's people that look for those categories, right? They look for YA, they look for middle school, and some of them could be, educators. But I'm like, I just don't know what the criteria is for defining them, and maybe that's something I should Google.
Yeah, there's some places that you can go, and they're like you said, some of them typically. I've been to a couple of conferences, like you said, with the profanity, drug use, sexual content, those kind of things define it too. You get more as you go up. Right.
Right. So you look at the Twilight books, which I haven't read, but so don't nobody throw rotten fruit at me. But from what I understand from the people that have read them, there's it's supposed to be YA, but there's like very adult themes in there as far as relationships and things of that nature. So I'm like, who decides what's what? And it seemed to be it would be like a shifting scale depending on a person's perspective. So I try not to focus on it too much, to be honest with you.
Same here.
Because it is a kind of fluid category too. Like because even the people who are in YA, they have some feel that nothing should be censored because people who are young adults, they go through all types of things, and it's not all roses, cookies, and gumdrops. So some people feel that nothing should be off limits, especially because with censoring and stuff like that.
Well, look at the Hunger Games. That's pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Hunger Games is pretty graphic. They read that in middle school though. My daughters read that stuff. So is that YA? I mean that's.
Yeah, that's YA.
Wow.
Definitely YA.
Oh, I just consider it a good book that anybody can read.
Speaking of Susan Collins, actually, when I was reading YA, Anyway, when I was reading YA, it kind of made me think of just a little bit of her earlier books. It's the Gregor the Overlander series, because I was reading that one before Hunger Games came out, and I really like that series because it has a black kid as the protagonist, and it's kind of like an Alice in Wonderland set in New York. And like everybody should read that series too.
What's the name of it?
Gregor the Overlander. I'll link it.
Yeah, link it. And I was saying, I don't know if anybody ever watched Kyle XY on ABC Family.
I watched a little.
Yeah, watched a little of it. And to me, and I talked to John about this, his Nas reminds me so much of Kyle XY. Just a black Kyle XY, I guess that goes without saying. Just this kid with a shrouded past that has all these crazy abilities and doesn't know he has the abilities until it's time to do something, right? So any Cal
watch that.
Yeah, any Cal XY fans out there that really liked Cal XY, you would really love I Initiate because there's a lot of similarities there, with excellent writing, goes without saying. So this that hour went quick, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I think? What we're gonna do? I think we're gonna have like an authors chat, right? Where it's maybe get 5 of us an authors round table. I've done this before, but I like to invite John back. I like to invite Katie back, where we just ask each other questions and go at it and throw it up on YouTube and tweet our followers and talk about the process. Let me know if you guys would be open to that.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
Okay, all right. I'll try to throw something up on your calendar. But before we wind down, Katie, I'd like you to give your minute, 30 seconds, 90 seconds, whatever, about who you are, where you're at, where they can find you, what you write, why you write, and then we'll close out with John.
All right. Well, as I said in the beginning, I'm Katie. I'm author of The Outsider Chronicles. It's a 5-book series, YA dystopia, and it starts with Nico and it's her adventures as a badass girl with a baseball bat and fighting slithers who are flesh-eating monsters. It's a fun read. I'm writing the 5th book right now. I've just killed off some people. Okay, I killed off people in a lot of books. But anyway. I've just killed off some people, so that's all I'm warning you about.
All right. This is your boy Thelonious Legend, host of Blurred Book Club, Black Comic Chatting with that. I guess I'm a YA writer too, science fiction. I write about black girls with superpowers. We really want to thank John Winston for coming on. I'm a big fan of John. Proud to say I'm a friend of John's. John, before we go, let us know what's on your plate, what you got cracking, where can people find you at, and what can they expect from you next?
Okay. Again, let me see. I'll be graduating with my MFA in June. I'll be running two actually workshops at the National Writers Convention in Las Vegas in April. You can just look that up, Las Vegas Writers Convention, Writers Conference. Just published in December part 2 of my IA series, Boss. First one is IA Initiate, 5-part series, and I'm writing the third right now, IA Union.
Right.
And you can get me at Facebook. I saw John Darrell Winston or John D. Winston, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Right, and I read the second book, so I was biting my tongue because I didn't want to throw no spoilers out because I would just be wrong. But we probably gonna have John back because we're going to be talking about that second book for sure, man. Because I got some stuff I gotta get off my chest.
I just come to your town, man. I just come to your town. Go to Fridays and kick it.
And we'll chop it up. I'll be back in Detroit here in the spring.
Okay, all right, great.
Yeah, so
great.
I'll definitely throw something on your calendar, bro. Thanks everybody for coming. If you have any books that you think we should discuss or talk about, throw them on a poll on Goodreads. This is what we do. We promote diverse characters. We promote diverse authors that write diverse characters. Next book up on is The Mark of Nova by Twin Sisters Ninja. So be looking for tweets about that. And until then, everybody enjoy your day and enjoy your MLK weekend. Have a good one. Bye now.